Good two-way action, a little heavier. I'm looking at the book that books the most NHL stuff on the East Coast. And yeah, it's a little later over there so far. A little bit more money on Edmonton. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Again, no sharp bets to share in either of the playoffs. We do have a little bit of baseball. If you wanted to dive in, a couple dogs we bet. We took the White Sox at all the way down to plus 190, from 210 all the way to plus 190. Also plus 1.5 up to minus 110. So took a little run line and took a little money line on the White Sox. Also took Texas at plus 140. Two favorites, the Yankees, 963 Yankees up to minus 140. 955 St. Louis up to minus 130. And then Detroit, Baltimore over 8. That got there for us yesterday. That was a 4% play on the over in that game. They're coming back with it today. And then the over 8.5 in Washington and the Mets. Again, slow day Thursdays. It's usually the travel day as we get ready for a big weekend.
So the one on paper trading today, Colorado Rockies, first 5 innings under. Birdsong gets the start for the Giants. He doesn't go too deep into games, but he's done pretty good early in the games, allowing more than 2.5 runs just once in his last 4 outings. I don't like the schedule for the Rockies. They had a really late game last night. Now the batters got to come back and play in the afternoon. So I'm going to take under 2.5 first innings, Colorado Rockies. This one comes from the WagerTalk free picks page from Buster. Seth Jones over 1.5 shots on goal. He went under last game, but he's gone over in 10 out of the last 12 games against Edmonton. We're going to Formula One, the Canadian Grand Prix. Winning margin under 6 seconds. This is a prop in the prop section. Formula One, Canadian Grand Prix under 6 seconds. It's cashed in 6 of the 9 races this year, cashed in each of the last 2, cleared with ease this year. If the McLarens get out and they're running 1-2, they're going to run right behind each other, and you're going to have an under 6 second margin for the winner. And then U.S. Open, a couple props that tee off here in about a half hour. John Rahm over 71.5, the round 1 score. The morning guys went out. The first 5 or 6 holes were pretty easy because the greens were soft. Bogeys galore now. It's going to be carnage in the afternoon. John Rahm over 71.5. His driving accuracy hasn't been there. And Sung J M over 73.5. His irons have been truly atrocious. It's been a big step back year. He's going to struggle mightily to hit these really fast greens. So John Rahm over 71.5 and Sung J M over 73.5. Those tee off here in about a half hour or so. So there's some plays for the live viewers. Let's go to the Yankees and the Royals here real quick. Looks like we've got Warren for Yankees, Lugo for Royals. How do you break this game down?
Yes. So if you watch Total Bases, as I've been saying over and over, I do have a list of what I call chronic walkers. And I just make a list of guys who walk a lot. And then I have, since I was an MLB scout, I use the same database to project people, their numbers in the strikeouts, the outs. I do a lot of props, and you might be familiar with that, Andy, because I've known you to do a prop or two in your lifetime. The walks props are very successful for me, and Will Warren tends to be one of those chronic walkers. He actually is walking. I have him number 11 out of 20 in all MLB starters for walks. He's walking about 4.5 guys per 9. In the last 30 days, he's walking more than 5 per 9. But you can't just use per 9 because obviously he's not going to pitch 9 innings. At least he probably isn't going to. But against the Royals, I have him projected to walk 2.3 batters. I believe his walk prop is 1.5. I like the over 1.5 walks for Will Warren. If it bumps up to 2.5, I would not take it. But if you can find a 1.5, I would certainly take that. Another way I would go in this game is both teams are crushing the ball pretty good. I have the Yankees batting number 4 in all of Major League Baseball right now, and I have the Royals batting 9. So they're both top 10 lineups. I have both bullpens performing like dog poo right now. The Royals ranked 25 and the Yankees ranked 22. So 2 poor bullpens, 2 lineups that are hot. And I do like Seth Lugo throughout his career, but this year something's a little off on him. And Will Warren, I've never been a huge fan of. So I like the over in this game as well. I think it was a 9. 9's pretty high, but I still don't mind it. Both of these lineups are cranking really well. I think we're going to see a lot of runs here. This looks like a 5-4 game to me. Maybe a 6-4 game. I think we can get 1 run per inning in this one. So I kind of like the over 9 as well.
I had the under in the last game there, and obviously that came up just short. I mean, every game is pivotal in the playoffs, but it really does seem like this next one is really pivotal, obviously, because Florida can take a stranglehold on the series, or the Oilers will be right back in it and have home ice advantage moving forward. And the first 3 games have all gone over the number, but now here I finally think that we're going to get a classic lower scoring battle, and I think it's very much a contrarian play. I see everyone and their dog piling on the over, but this finals here, it was always going to come down to which of the 2 goaltenders played better, and so far it's obviously been Sergei Bobrovsky. Skinner, he has only an .867 average over the first 3 games. But up until game 3, you know, the Oilers were just playing so well on the road. They did lose those first 2 games in LA, but then after that, they only allowed an average of 2.46 goals per game on the road. And so, yeah, as I say, I just see everyone and their dog piling on the over in this one. I'm going to go contrarian here, Andy, and I think that the first game of this series will finally go under. I'm 2-0 in the CFL this year after week 1, and the game I'm looking at is tonight. It's the 1-0 BC Lions. They're traveling to Winnipeg to take on the Blue Bombers, who are the 5-time Western Conference champions. But they had an awkward bye in week 1, so they did not play last week. For BC, it's Nathan Rourke under center, and so he was cut by the New England Patriots in like 2022, I think. And last week, though, he had a massive second half. They only had 3 points at halftime, and then the Lions scored 28 in the second half. Rourke had 3 touchdowns, and the Lions defense looked dominant as well in the end. And so the main reason, though, that BC is favored on the road here is that Winnipeg starting quarterback Zach Collaros, he's suspended for 1 game because of an off-season drug issue. And so that means that backup quarterback Chris Stevler, he is being thrown to the wolves here, basically. And then throw in the fact that Winnipeg also lost their number 1 receiver in the offseason, Kenny Lawler. I just think the more complete team here, BC is firing on all cylinders, going to be able to take advantage of a home side that's undermanned. And so I'm going to suggest to lay the points on the BC Lions tonight.
Now, the issue here for me basically is the fact he's now 38 years old and, you know, wrong side of 35 in this weight class, not the greatest look overall. But the thing about it is that it's something that I feel like we have seen a little bit for a couple fights from Usman, where I think that it's just starting to see a decline here. And I thought it kind of happened even in the win against Colby Covington that he had 4 fights ago, where, you know, yes, it was a, you know, they both went at it. It was a good fight, but I just thought you were seeing the explosiveness start to, you know, definitely decline a little bit. And then you definitely saw in the Leon Edwards fight, even the fight where he, you know, had the head kick heard around the world and was flatlined in the 5th round, you know, even prior to that, you know, it was very uneventful fight. You know, he kind of just positionally was holding him, not really doing too much. And then Leon, you know, caught him in the 5th. But the rematch that they had, still the same kind of thing. Leon kind of, you know, was able to, you know, dictate the pace a little bit. And really you saw even further, I think, that, you know, Usman slowing down. You know, you're just not seeing that explosive ability to get the takedowns, get that control time. And then you've got to add in the fact also that, you know, Usman has for years has been very well documented that he has terrible knees. Like, his knees are just blown and he's had problems with them and he's been trying to take care of them. And now he's 38 years old. He's a wrestler that needs to really utilize his legs to really plant himself, get those takedowns. And I think that's going to be a massive problem for him here, because now you've got, you know, Joaquin Buckley, who is entering his prime now. You know, he's on a 6-fight winning streak. He has looked absolutely fantastic, just the way that he's been able to kind of, you know, have his frame in this division. That's the biggest thing here also, is the fact that since he moved from 185 pounds to 170 has really been great for his career. You know, he's always kind of in the 185, you know, you've got guys who are trying to cut down and get down to that weight, and then they're much bigger than him. Now you've got Buckley, who went down, and now he's going to have that bigger frame. And the thing about it also is that he kept his explosiveness, he kept his power. Those are just things right now that you're seeing kind of materialize. And even against, you know, Wonder Boy Thompson recently, who is hard to knock out, only had been knocked out 1 time prior. You know, he's very tough to take down, and just, you know, his footwork and his distance management is elite in the division, or really in the UFC. And still, you know, Buckley was able to catch him, get the knockout. And even against Nursultan Rizaboyev, which, you know, say what you will about him, but he is a, you know, has a freak frame. He's long, he's lanky, he's got some power. And even there, I thought Buckley showed really a lot of just growth, because instead of him just going forward, winging shots, just trying to throw shots and catch a big knockout, he said, I got to take this guy down. I got to control him. He was 4 for 4 on takedowns and got the win. So really in this spot here, you're looking at, Buckley, who I think has all the advantages in this spot here. And you're going up against an aging guy. I think that Buckley is going to be able to defensive wrestle, be able to create the space, keep, for the most part, it on the feet. I'm sure Usman will find some takedowns, but I think Buckley, his get-up game is very good. I think on the feet, you've got the far more explosive fighter, the harder hitter with Buckley, faster hands, better combinations, and that's where I'm going with this, that I do think that Buckley does get the knockout. You got that knockout sitting around plus 150. I think it's a pretty solid price here, especially in a 5-rounder going up against an aging guy. And Buckley, out of his last 6 wins, 4 are by finish. I think that he gets the finish here, and I think he puts a stamp on this fight in the main event. It opened up minus 125 for Ochoa, and then you definitely saw that get steamed here. And I thought it was interesting just because of the fact that he just had his UFC debut in Ochoa. He came in against Loner Kavanaugh, and he lost. It was a striking kind of matchup. He lost. And now he's coming into this fight against a tough stylistic matchup, a guy who is a grizzled vet in the UFC. And now he's a 2-1 favorite. And I think that's a little bit off, and the market, I think, is a little bit overcorrecting here on the Durden side. But, you look at the first thing, strength of schedule here, and I think it's pretty, one-sided when you're first looking at that. Obviously, it's because Durden's been in the UFC for a while. But, I mean, Durden has faced guys like Charles Johnson, Muhammad Makayev, Jake Hadley, Tagiro Mbekov, Joshua Van, even Bruno Silva was a fight he was winning, and then until he wasn't winning. But if you look at some of the people that Ochoa has faced, he fought Loner Kavanaugh, who is, primarily a striker. But prior to that, if you look at the records, just the records of the last 4 guys outside the UFC, he beat a guy that's 4-5, 3-4, 7-1, and 2-7. Now he's only, he's 24, 25 years old, something like that. Obviously, he's not going to fight high level guys, but these guys are, working at Home Depot also. These guys are very, very low level fighters. And that's the biggest issue here, I think, for Ochoa, is the fact that this is going to be the toughest wrestler and style that he has had to face. Cody is a guy who's going to be pressure wrestling. He's going to smother you. He's going to come out the gate, give you hell early, swinging for the fences, diving at legs. And that may be something Ochoa is just not used to, especially that type of dog that you do have in Cody, that he is just an animal in there. He's going to give it everything that he has. And I think he finds a lot of success, but I think the takedowns and the threat of the takedowns are also just going to make it very tough for Ochoa to kind of find any success. He's a shoot-to-box guy. I respect those guys, but I think this is a very bad matchup for him. Now we're talking about a price of, 2-1 favorite on him. I think this line is off. I think it should be much tighter here. This should be more of a pick-em price. I do like Cody here. I think he gets the job done. So this feels like a dog or pass spot, and I think that Cody can win this one stylistically.